Welcome back to another comparison. Who has the ultimate six-pack in the WWE? Today we're lining up the top 30 most attractive and legendary bodybuilders to ever step in the ring. Let's get the countdown started. At 30, superstar Billy Graham. He has massive biceps and undeniable flair. At 29, Zack Ryder. He completely transformed his body and built a heavily defined midsection. At 28, Andred. He brings an incredibly lean and agile physique that looks great in the ring. At 27, Apollo Crews. He has a densely muscled, powerhouse frame to match his high-flying moves. At 26, Cesaro. He is pound for pound one of the strongest men with a naturally lean and solid core. At 25, the Ultimate Warrior. He brought pure comic book muscles and shredded intensity to the ring. At 24, Elias. He always stayed perfectly conditioned with a rock-solid six-pack under the spotlight. At 23, Drew McIntyre. He dominates with a towering, intimidating frame that stays astonishingly ripped. At 22, Dolph Ziggler. He uses his amateur background to maintain a lean and constantly conditioned core. At 21, Buddy Murphy. He cut weight and got unbelievably shredded to dominate the cruiserweight division. At 20, Chuck Palumbo. He carried an imposing 6'5" frame while keeping his abs incredibly tight. At 19, Scott Steiner. He took muscle mass to the absolute extreme with his freakish chest and huge arms. At 18, Chris Masters. He had a perfect physique that looked like it was literally carved out of marble. At 17, Austin Theory. He represents the modern era with a genetically gifted and perfectly symmetrical body. At 16, Seth Rollins. He features a highly functional, CrossFit-built core that fuels his unmatched stamina. At 15, Batista. He carried a massive torso and highly defined abs that made him look like a real-life superhero. At 14, Triple H. He reached his physical peak in the early 2000s with an incredibly shredded, bodybuilder look. At 13, The Rock. He evolved from a lean athlete into a massive, chiseled powerhouse with incredible definition. At 12, John Cena. He paired world-class lifting strength with a thick, powerful, and blocky six-pack. At 11, Jinder Mahal. He shocked the world by getting completely shredded and revealing a crazy 8-pack. At 10, Goldberg. He brought a vascular, trap-heavy powerhouse physique matched with explosive muscles. At 9, Lex Luger. He was the total package with the ultimate bodybuilder aesthetic of his time. At 8, Randy Orton. He possesses the ideal wrestling build with a tall, lean, and perfectly proportioned frame. At 7, Bobby Lashley. He defies age by combining huge heavyweight size with the tight abs of a fitness model. At 6, Brock Lesnar. He combines freakish heavyweight mass with a shockingly defined and thick core. At 5, Pac. He carried an insanely ripped, gravity-defying superhero physique with veins everywhere. At 4, Tony Nese. He literally made his perfect 8-pack abs a central part of his athletic character. At 3, John Morrison. He is famous for his functional parkour physique and amazing slow-motion abs. At 2, Rick Rude. He built his entire legendary persona around showing off his absolutely perfect midsection. At 1, Finn Balor. He is widely considered to have the most shredded and deeply defined six-pack in modern WWE history. Do you agree with our number 1 pick? Leave your top choices, comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Make sure to subscribe for more wrestling slideshows and rankings. See you next time.